Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of making a Minecraft adventure map, and we're back in this area. I've made a few changes since last time to the texture pack. Been working on a lot of other areas as well, and a lot of the behind the scenes work. And I will show you guys what I can without revealing too much. What I've decided for this series is, rather than show everything that I'm doing, is just show a little bit of everything. So rather than all of the building, just some of the building, but of each type. So like we've done landscaping, we've done structures, as we saw a few episodes ago in the cave, and texture work, we've done a little bit of that. Some of the changes we've made is the grass block. It's pretty much the same as on the top and the sides as a normal grass block, but I smoothed it out just a little bit. And so it's a lot more, let's set the time today. I'm on a server right now, so that's why it looks different. Or that's why we have all these messages. So yeah, it just feels a little smoother and less rough. And that kind of goes with the idea of there's no real grass in this area, so it kind of works out that way. Also, I've done the coarse dirt and the dirt we see here. The coarse dirt was just a very rough and dry looking stuff. But yeah, nothing too big really. I've been working on other stuff. If I slide through this real quick, you can see some of the textures I've done in terms of blocks. But you'll have to play the map to see how they're used. I don't want to spoil too much. I've decided, like I said. Anyways, we've got this water to texture left, and I'll probably just do that. I try to fix all of those. But yeah, I'm trying to retexture every block that you see, and of course, water is vanilla water, and I want everything just to look different so that you know it's not vanilla. So you may have noticed that I've got 3 items in my inventory, and that is the carrot on a stick, the bone, and then the blaze rod. So today I figured we'd be working on the first item that you get in the game, which is a power gauntlet. And what this allows you to do is basically it does everything that you need to do. So if you need to mine, you use the power gauntlet. If you need a weapon, it's part of the power gauntlet. So, and all of these things will be able to be upgraded. So if you just have a base level thing, then like every gun is good, but it's good for its own purpose. So we are going to have these here. I'll just throw them in a chest, or just throw a chest down now. This is a very old resource pack, like base, so everything's looking kind of funky. Like you can see the notches on this side. They're just supposed to be over here, and it's just the inside of the chest is... Don't worry about that, because today we're going to be working on the power gauntlet. So I'll meet you over in Blockbench, or maybe even in GIMP to start with. Probably Blockbench though. So here we are in Blockbench. We've got the carrot on a stick texture. It's basically how all items start out with, is a real thin slice of a model. So let's go ahead and just delete that, and go ahead and delete that. I don't want to be using textures that, or be loading textures that we're not going to use. So the first thing I want to do, this is a power gauntlet, so it's going to be kind of like a glove. And I think their proper dimensions are, is it 4x4? No, I think it's 8x8. Watch this be ridiculously large. I think it's 4x4 just by looking at this. Oh, one of these is 9. It's probably this one. Okay, so this is going to be the main thing, and I'm going to raise that up to 2, 3, 4. So that's basically perfectly in the middle of a block. This would be like the slime chunk in the middle of a slime block. So if you cut over to the display, yeah, that thing is absolutely massive. We don't want it to be that big. So I did make it way too big. So I'll bring it in 2 on each side. And I'll just bring it in that much because this will be, yeah. So I think that's going out too far. I do want it to be almost just pretty much in sync with the hand. But you may notice that this is flashing a bunch, and that's an issue in game. So if we give this a texture real quick, I'll show you how it's an issue. Okay, I did have the program crash, which was kind of annoying. But yeah, let's go ahead and throw this random acacia texture on all sides. What am I doing? I can just do this. There we go. That's easier. And then if I save it, okay, I figured it out. There was additional JSON in the file, and it confused the game. It was looking for a file that didn't exist and whatever. But this is what it looks like if it has that fighting between them, and this is commonly known as Z fighting, which is a big issue for modeling. So we want to get rid of that, and we can see that through here, which is nice. So if we go back to edit, we can change it so that it does not happen. If I go up by 0.25, oh, that was too much. Just big enough to be like that, then now you can see there is no Z fighting and it fits perfectly fine. If I move this back, I do want to verify that if you have a second layer, it doesn't cover it up. So let me do. So yeah, this is another thing you have to be afraid of, is people can have a second layer, and as we can see here, it's fighting now with the sleeve, and we don't want that. So we got to fix that as well. So if we go back to this, we can just, with Blockbench, if you hold Control, it'll just grow a little bit. It'll grow by a point. Oh, that was wrong. We're in the wrong mode. It grows by 0.1 pixels rather than just 1 pixel. So now this will be fine, and we can verify that. It looks good. Looks like a armband or something. So now that we've got the right size, we want to make it look good, of course. So let's work on that. First thing let's do is move that back, and I do want to grow that to about there. That fights okay. There's 0.1. I'm sure it's probably the same value, so I'll make it go out extra just in case. So I think that's a very good base glove or gauntlet that we can start with. So if we go back to the edit, we definitely want a better texture than this. So we can go to the paint tab and actually change like this, which is cool. So I'm thinking maybe the base layer, we just want black. So if we just do black, and then if we shrink this, go back to edit, we shrink the selection to that, and then do a apply to all faces, we just have a black thing, and then we have the rest of the texture to work with still, in case if we want to use more of the texture, which we do. So I haven't really designed too much of this, but I'm thinking more of a very sleek look. It's good to rename stuff. So this is the black base part of it. Let's create a new cube. Actually, I'm going to delete that. Usually I like to duplicate it just because I know it's positioned right where I want it, and then move it from there. So maybe we want something, if we move this, shrink it to about 1. And then I'm going to move this over just so I can see what I'm working with. There we go. So that is right up against the black base, I think. Nope, there's a tiny, tiny bit. It's like, I think that's right up against it. But I'm thinking shrink that in like that, and then of course expand it by just probably shrink this down, shrink that down, so that's fighting with it on all edges, good. And then maybe you just come out 0.25. That looks pretty okay. And I'm imagining this being a gray, although this color doesn't look terrible. And I'm going to duplicate that and just move it to the other side. It should be almost exactly the same. I think it's back like that. So we've got a start to our gauntlet. If we go back to the display, we can see what it looks like. It looks kind of cool. Definitely want to fill in all of this blank space. Okay, so we've got these two stripes, and I'm thinking we want to do something kind of similar to them in the middle. So if I duplicate this and move it over to, ooh, that's a pretty good spot. And same with this one to about there, and then kind of meet up between the two of them, so it's about pretty close to being, yeah, just like that, perfect. And then I'm going to shrink this up. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that's not bad. It is looking pretty boring, and I'm wondering, I think I'll live with this. This looks the best, I think. Okay. Go back to edit. The way I model is I just use, as you can see so far, almost entirely just solid color pieces rather than texturing pieces, which is a lot less performant, but it's easier for me to model, and I don't use that many models. I just use a few in the inventory, and so I don't have to worry about performance too much. Okay, so this is looking pretty good, but yeah, I think we need to work on the other sides now. And I'm thinking we want handles, at least on one side. I'm thinking at the very least on this side, maybe on this side. And I want it to look pretty beefy. So maybe these blue things, we duplicate. You may notice that I've kind of given up on all of these, naming them. I do that a lot. I guess I can group these together at the very least. Grouping things really makes a difference though. Yeah, okay. So if it's on your right hand, which would be most players, something like this would make sense. Like that's your thumb. I'll do it. I think that looks good. We do want another plate, and preferably it's rotated. I'm thinking maybe about just a chunk through the thumb, but not all the way. So something like that. And then maybe a pipe looking thing below it, below the thumb. Apparently the thumb is not a finger. No, now it is. Let's duplicate that and bring it back. And I want to shrink it. Maybe not that much, but we'll see. It's actually not terrible. I think I'm going to make it just a little bit wider. And if we go in with it just a tiny bit, like this, that's not terrible. I think I can live with that. That looks good. The back of this, let's shrink that to just the one color, so it's solid. This blue needs to be brighter, I think. Let's make this there. I think that looks better. So I think this is detailed enough on this side before. And this side we don't really need to do much because your arm is going to be here. And the bottom, I usually don't do too much for it either. The top we're going to do something fancy, but for the time being, we got to do something on this side. So probably, maybe this side is where we're going to put the handle, actually. So duplicate that, put that there. Oop, don't want a cube. I wanted a group, and let's rename that to be handle, and throw that in handle. Oop, in handle, and just slide that way over here. So let's get a handle color. Maybe the orange might work. I don't like that. I do want a side plate over here though. Make it pretty thin. And make it skinny too. Actually a little bit more than that. There we go. I think this will look good if I slide that right over. And hopefully there's no gap there. There is. Just move over just a little bit. Do you want to move it back? There. So what color do we want to make? I think we do want a new color. What would be good though? Maybe a very dark blue? Or do we want a lighter gray? That's what we probably want, is a lighter gray. Yeah, I think that'll work. If we go side plate, go back to edit, and then drop the lighter gray on it. Pull it out from there, apply to all faces, and we want to shrink this down. Maybe not that much. That's not terrible. Then make it thicker on the side. That's too thick. That's probably about right. Make it shorter. Now, do we want these to be, the handles going in to be angled, or do we want them to come straight out? I think straight out, because this isn't very high quality stuff. This is like kind of thrown together, I would imagine it. So if we take another one of these and shrink it to about there, and oh, that's way too thick. Yeah, like that. But then of course go in with it. And because these are the same color, they won't Z-fight. Like if I click off, they're not fighting. They did fight because when you click on one, it highlights and gets lighter. Now, do we want it there, or do we want to bring it in just a little bit? I think if we bring it in, it'll look like, that's not terrible. I almost think we should bring the whole assembly out just a little bit. Yeah, I think that looks better. And then we want details below and above. And I think I'm going to do those side plate things. Kind of like what we started with, but didn't work out. And shrink it to, let's make it thicker. And longer. Yeah, this might look good. Maybe I need to bring it down just a little bit. I like that. And then bring the other one, it's about there. If we save that, let's look at it in the display. I think it looks pretty beefy. And if you imagine your hand being inside of that, that makes sense. The bottom we can knock out real quick. Oh, don't want to paint it. Probably wants this color. And of course shrink it to real thin. And I think I might just do a plate at the bottom and that's it. Because it doesn't need to be too fancy, like I said before. Don't waste time on something that no one will ever see. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, then finally the top, which is going to be very similar to the bottom, but also a lot fancier. So here's the top plate. Shrink that into there. And then I also want a display coming out of it. So if we duplicate this, and if we, I don't want to change the pivot, I want to change the rotation. So what's nice about block benches, you can change rotations of stuff. And I'm thinking about having just a little screen like this. Probably want to go in the other way actually. Like that's kind of cool if it was like that, but I think I'm going to bring it in to there. Okay. Let's duplicate that. And I want to make a blue outline. And then come in, of course, and shrink the whole thing. Just like that. Probably want to go in just a little bit more. Like that. And so this is going to be the display of what you've got. So if you've got a mining thing, there's going to be a pickaxe here. I think it's too wide at the moment, actually. I think we don't need it to be that wide. We come in that much. Yeah. And so I want to make a gray plate right above this. That looks like it interfaces with the display just a little bit so that it's not all the same. If we do this and apply to all faces like that, that looks pretty good. We'll have to shrink it just a little bit more. If we shrink it to there, that's actually not terrible. It will fight just a little bit, so if we grow it like that, and then from this front, I think we can shrink it back, because you're not going to see this, you're going to see it from this angle. And then we want to make this top plate a little more fancy as well. So I think one thing we can do is create a couple stripes going through it. And I think it might make those black actually. Go back to, or this, yeah, this dark blue would look nice. Make that thicker. And we want to grow it on both sides. Sure, that much. And go down just a hair, probably to there. And there. So I think this looks pretty nice actually. The idea, I think I might either make it upgrade to a new color. So like this is bronze tier, and then there's a silver and gold and platinum tiers. I'm thinking you can upgrade each item once, or 3 times, I mean. And so we can change this base color pretty easily. And that would be a very nice way of showing the player, hey, this weapon is very heavily upgraded, or this weapon is very weak. So if we look at it here, it's looking pretty nice. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, and then we can view it in the actual game. So this is what it looks like in third person. Not bad, but the more important view is first person. So first thing that's pretty obvious is it's very low, and I'm not a big fan of how low that is. So we can bring that up. If we go back to Blockbench, there we go. Back in Blockbench, we can change the third person left and right views. And actually in third person left, we can scale it to -1, I think. Maybe if I mirror it. Oh, that mirrors it that way. I gotta set this back to 1. If I scale it like that, yeah, perfect. So now the left-handed person also, it shows up right that the thumb is on going inwards. None of these matter. What we want is the first person left and right. So see how low this is? We can actually change that by, I think 2 is probably a good value. No, probably want 6 maybe. Not that high. I think 2 is actually good. So we got to do that for left and right. There we go. And then on people's head, doesn't matter. We probably won't be doing that. On the ground, that looks fine. We can actually scale it up. If you ever have a weird, if you ever want to scale something up real weird, it's kind of funny to do it this way. So like it looks like the item is very flat when you throw it on the ground, or real skinny or something. Real, just absolutely massive on the ground. Like that's hilarious. Look how big that is. This is the size of a block. It's like bigger than that. But we're not doing that. Another trick is also to do it to 0 so that when it's on the ground you can't see it. But what we're concerned about is the GUI. This looks awful. We don't really want this. What we could do is... Oop, don't want that. Don't want to scale it. What we could do is rotate it. Probably not this way. Rotate it this way. So that we can see what's on the screen. And then we can scale it up. Probably, what, 2 for each? Alternatively, we could change the view to be like a little chip, which is going to be how you upgrade the gauntlet. But for now, I think instead of doing it this way, I'm going to just rotate it. I think, is it 45? That's too much. I think it's like 25. And then 25. And then, no, this way usually you don't rotate it. And then you translate it to be centered in just like that. So now if we go back to Minecraft, and everything gets reloaded, that looks pretty nice. So if I do if I give myself this is a laser pistol, so it could look something like this. A lot of the stuff in this I've got a lot of the back-end stuff kind of figured out. Just have to implement it. So yeah, for each variation of the gauntlet, and they're actually just all going to be chips, so it's like cycling between different items, but it's actually the same item many times. Yeah, it's going to be, just change the screen here, which I think will look pretty neat. So I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. We will be expanding on it. giving it function, more function. But yeah, I have decided that I want to change the way this series works rather than going back and forth between building / modeling and texturing and functions. I kind of just want to do whatever I want to work on, because that way, if I've got a bunch of stuff to do, I'll just do it and then not try to focus more on content, but more on getting the map done, because it's not like I'm getting a million views to make this map. I'm getting just a few. But I do appreciate all of the views I've been getting, and been chopping away at this map real slowly but surely. I hope to finish it before too long. I do have a lot of the building done. The landscaping, I think, is pretty much all done. So that's a big chunk of the map. Ooh, this looks bad. There we go. But anyways, thanks for watching, and as always, have a great day.